Hey there, everybody, and welcome to Mondays with Mike. I want to wish everybody out there a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, whatever else that you celebrate, whatever's special to you this time of the year. I hope you have a great holiday season. We are looking for some trouble, though, as we head into the night of Christmas Eve, and we're going to be talking a lot more about that ahead. But today is also another very important day. It involves this. It's Festivus. Today is December the 23rd. It is the Festivus for the rest of us. And of course, this is Frank Costanza's pole, an aluminum pole to replace the traditional Christmas tree because he thought Christmas was becoming too commercialized. And so we have the pole as part of our celebration of Festivus. We're not going to be taking part in the feats of strength. I don't want to really have to wrestle anybody here in the newsroom, but we do want to talk about the airing of grievances and maybe some weather grievances that we have. And so, to end this year and to head into the new year, we have several grievances that we're going to air. We've actually broken it down to four major, memorable, very bad, dangerous weather events that we had this year. And JD and Ramisha and Allison and I each kind of took a part of it. We're going to talk about the January freeze, that's one of my grievances. I can't stand it when it gets really cold like that. When we got temperatures down into the teens again, we had awful flooding, historic flooding that took place in late April and early May. And then, of course, all of that was punctuated by event number 3, which was the infamous Houston derecho. And finally, of course, Hurricane Beryl. So we were hit by just one thing after another just in those months. And so when we're talking about the airing of grievances, that's what I'm going to go for weather-wise on my list of grievances. And I will tell you I have other grievances, mostly involving rule changes in the NFL that really irk me. Like the kickoffs are terrible now. It's no fun. And I don't like how they made the season now. It's 17 games instead of 16 games, and they're still keeping the same records. Like they're still saying that this person's going to break the rushing record or, passing record, whatever it is. But you got more games. You got one more game in there. So how in the world is that fair? So I'm going to include that in my airing of grievances, NFL. You got to stop doing that. It makes no sense. The same thing happened, by the way, when Eric Dickerson ran for 2,100 yards, but he did it. O.J. Simpson did the 2,003 yards in 14 games. So if you have more games, of course you're going to have more yards. So anyway, so that's part of my airing of the grievances. And I also would like to ask everybody this holiday season to please drive more safely. Stop running red lights. I understand that it is inconvenient when your left turn signal, the light turns red, but that doesn't mean that the next 5 cars can blow through it. It doesn't work that way. So anyway, enough for the airing of grievances. Maybe you have a grievance that you want to tell me about. Maybe let me know on my Facebook page, and maybe I could air, your grievances next week. So coming up here today on Mondays with Mike, we're going to have a little review of one of our big weather events from 2024, which were the spring floods. A lot of that kind of got lost in, obviously, Hurricane Beryl. That was the most memorable, I think, of the season. And then, of course, the floods kind of got lost in the unbelievable derecho that Ramisha Shea did a long discussion of that you could find on Fox Local. But I have some data about the floods and who was most affected, and how it kind of compares to some past floods that we've had. And we're also going to talk about that Christmas Day and Christmas Eve forecast, because there are some problems out there that may be affecting your plans. In fact, I went ahead and had to go ahead and do the Storm Alert Day, a SAD day, SAD, to let you know that there could be meaningful, impactful weather coming in here, mostly heading into Christmas Eve evening. So let's head over to the weather computer, and I'm going to share some information with you about the spring floods, some of which might surprise you. Well, over here, in the Weather Center in front of the weather computer here. I'm going to share with you a few graphics here to talk about the timing of, well, very unfortunate timing for some storms that are going to interfere with Santa's sleigh making it here, because we do have a pretty good chance for downpours late Christmas Eve into early morning on Christmas Day. And accordingly here, as we check out this graphic, this is the severe weather outlook from NOAA's Storm Prediction Center. So they highlight areas of the country that are at risk for seeing severe weather. So this is what's called the convective outlook. And the convective outlook for the period of time from Tuesday through Tuesday night, this ends at 7 a.m. Wednesday morning, which is Christmas morning. And notice here there's a pretty sizable portion of Texas here, Houston and Katy and Sealy, and then all the way out to Austin, heading up to Waco, and then into northeast Texas. Those are the areas that are colored darker green. Now, that's not a huge chance of seeing severe weather, but it does mean strong thunderstorms and isolated severe, which, by the way, it's a good time to discuss what exactly is severe weather. You know, a lot of times we'll just, I think people in general will refer to any strong thunderstorms or any heavy rain as severe weather, but the Weather Service does have a definition, and the definition is that the winds are going to be gusting above 55 miles per hour, that the hail is going to be at least 1 inch in diameter, and or there are tornadoes. So we don't really expect tornadoes with this, but there could be some hail, and there's a chance there could be some winds with that as well. So that's why we have that possible, that 1 out of 5 on the scale here for seeing some severe weather. Here's a closer view, by the way, of the parts of our area that are under this slightly elevated risk. Now, keep in mind, there's no watches or warnings or anything at this point on Monday, but that could change potentially. We'll see. So right now, from Wharton back over to Sugar Land and Katy, all of Houston, back over to Liberty, and including the Woodlands and Conroe and over to Brenham, all these areas are at that slightly elevated risk. And really, you're really splitting hairs over whether or not Galveston and Brazoria County are in that as well. I would just consider the entire area to be somewhat at an elevated risk for seeing some of these heftier thunderstorms. And also, by the way, even if they aren't severe, they could be, could still produce a lot of lightning and could still produce some brief heavy rain, maybe more than 1 inch of rain in an hour, maybe 2 inches of rain per hour rainfall rates, which can briefly cause some street flooding, even though we're not under any sort of flood advisories. Let me share 2 models with you. I'm actually going to share 3 models with you, okay? Because what we look for is some agreement among the models, and the more they agree, obviously the more confidence we can have in the timing and intensity and severity and things like that. So I'm going to start off with this model, which we call the GRAPH. Now, the GRAPH is the Global Rapid Update Atmospheric Forecast Model. It was developed by IBM, and it's a global model. It does a pretty darn good job, really, for most of our daily weather. Sometimes it overdoes things a little bit, but other times it does catch things that some of the other models miss. So let me walk you through this. So here's today, when we'll have some scattered showers, possible, like isolated by the late part of the day today. Now, this is Tuesday, 6 a.m., and you'll see a scattering of some showers, and obviously the red means what you think it would mean, heavier rain, right? Maybe a thunderstorm. So this is 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Also some isolated activity. By the way, the fact that we have some of the area not covered in white is clouds. So the fact that we have some splitting of the clouds means that we'll probably warm up. And there is a chance that we could actually get close to 80 degrees in some locations. And the warmer we get, the higher the likelihood is that we just have more energy to feed in with those thunderstorms during the nighttime hours. So here's a look ahead at Tuesday night, which of course Tuesday is Christmas Eve night at 11:30 p.m. This is what the graph is showing us. You know what? Hold on a second, guys. This model that I'm showing you right now is not the graph. This is the HRRR. I'm going to show you the graph here in a second. Sorry, I updated this really quickly. Let me just change this to her model. There we go. Let's take a look again. So this is the high resolution rapid refresh model, okay? And this is showing at around 11:30. So here we go. This is 11:30. on Tuesday night, some storms approaching us from the west. Now it's showing a broken line coming in, and then most likely making its way through the Houston area here early on Christmas morning. So this is paused at 5 a.m., still showing a scattering of some showers and storms for Brazoria and for Galveston County and back over to Liberty County. And then as we wrap up, heading toward 10 o'clock in the morning, still some coastal showers. Okay, so that's the HRRR, High Resolution Rapid Refresh Model. That is from NOAA. Now I want to show you the graph model, which is the IVM model. And we'll see what this one is showing, okay? It's also showing hit and miss kind of activity on tomorrow, on Tuesday, Christmas Eve. And it also is showing some sunny skies, like, the clouds breaking up in a couple of spots, which would lead to heating and lead to the potential for maybe some upper 70s or near 80 degrees, which would feed in with these storms. Very similar timing. This is 10 p.m. on Tuesday. Again, showing that broken line of thunderstorms, Brenham, Huntsville, Bryan College Station, and then moving toward Houston. Look at this, 2 a.m. So this graph model is a little faster with the rain and just a little bit heavier with the rain. But really, it's not that much different. So both of those models is showing midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. The graph is showing it moving out, though, by 6 a.m., while the HRRR was showing it stalling along the coastline. Now, either one of those scenarios is possible. I would probably go with the clearing out, because sometimes these lines will sort of accelerate and should have enough momentum behind it to move off the coastline. Okay, so I also want to share with you this is our Fox model. And remember, I've shown you the Fox model before. It's an exclusive model to us. It was developed by our team in Tampa, and it's based off of a model that we call the Weather Research and Forecasting Model, the WRF. So, which is a model used by universities and things like that to create new versions of models. So here's a look ahead at what the Fox model is showing us. So here is the same deal. Here's Tuesday morning, and it's showing a very similar kind of thing, right? With some kind of isolated, widely scattered showers across the area. And then as we go forward in time, let's take a look at, this is now Christmas Eve afternoon, and let's watch for the line. Okay, let's watch for the line to form out here to the northwest. So here we go. This is 6 o'clock on Christmas Eve. And here we look ahead at 10 o'clock. Remember, the last model we looked at, the graph, was showing storms around the College Station area. And here we go. This one is showing a similar kind of scenario. In fact, I can turn up the, let's see. Okay, yeah, we don't want to do that. But I was going to say, you can make it like sharper, more specific, but I don't usually like doing that. But anyway, so this is what it's showing us here, 9:45, approximately 10 p.m., Christmas Eve. Very similar conclusion here. College Station, Huntsville, Brenham, just like we were talking about. And now here is midnight, 12:30 in the morning on Christmas, with some of these bigger thunderstorms right here in the Houston area. And then pretty rough stuff through about 3 a.m. And then, again, this one also is showing it by 6 a.m., still some lingering rain around. And then after that, most of it moving offshore, some of it lingering along the coastline here through 8, 9, and 10 a.m. So definitely something to plan for. We want to make sure that we plan for that. Don't get caught off guard by that. So that's a look at your forecast, guys. This is terrible timing. It's also terrible timing for me because, I'm working Christmas and we're on the air from 7 to 10 instead of 4 to 10. So I thought, maybe I'll get a chance to sleep in. It's Christmas. No rest for the weary. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about here was sort of a year in review, and one of the things that I was covering, which was the springtime floods. Now, some of you might remember what happened beginning on the 29th of April. So late on the night of the 28th, which was a Sunday, we started having very slow-moving, heavy downpours up around
Walker County, San Jacinto County, and Polk County. It was very torrential and not moving very much. And then eventually heading into the morning of Monday the 29th, it started to slide to the south. And so let's take a little review. So overall, when you look at this flooding event that began on the night of the 28th into the day on the 29th of April, and then went through about the 5th or 6th of May, and the reason I say 5th or 6th is different areas got hit at different times, but overall it was about a 7 to 8 day time frame. Some areas from Harris County northward received over 10 inches of rain in a single day, and up to 23 inches of rain over a week's time. And I'll kind of show you that here with some more numbers here in a moment. Flash flooding was a big concern. So it occurred on April 29th, and then again, after a 2-day break, it started happening again at the beginning of May. Baytown, you guys probably remember, you had flooding. East side of Harris County had flooding. Over to Chambers County, there was some flooding on the roadways. Liberty County. Historic flooding occurred on the Trinity River and on both the east and west fork of the San Jacinto River, and there were major problems on Lake Conroe and Lake Livingston that caused, engineering challenges where they had to start making releases, right? They had to start releasing water from the dams, which is always a controversial but necessary thing to do. By May the 6th, some of our local reservoirs, not the Barker and Addicks, remember that was Hurricane Harvey, but some of the ones off toward the north, especially our, Lake Houston, Lake Conroe, Lake Livingston, all those spots, actually had more water than they did during Hurricane Harvey, especially the areas toward the north of Houston. Worse than Harvey. Thousands of residents had to evacuate their homes, or they just had to shelter in place. There were lots and lots of water rescues. Some water rescues took place in Kingwood. There were some close to Conroe. There were a lot of water rescues near Livingston and West Livingston and across Walker County. I mean, it was really very, very bad. As far as a little bit closer to Houston and some of the Houston suburbs, what I remember is that morning of the 29th that Baytown got slammed with a lot of heavy rain. It was about 6.5 inches of rain. And Mont Belvieu, which is not too far away from Baytown, it's kind of a growing area there. Maybe you live there, over east of Houston. 9 inches of rain falling just in one morning. So, half a foot to 3/4 of a foot of rain falling in one morning. We also had rain, street flooding, river flooding in Kingwood, and then, like I said, also in Conroe, and then a lot of other areas that had shorter-term street flooding. This is a product from the National Weather Service, and it shows us some radar estimated rainfall totals. And in fact, let's see, this is probably a combination of radar estimates and maybe some ground truth. But nevertheless, look at this. So in the month of April, if you notice, we have a big swath of purple, which is up here. This is over to East Texas, Woodville. So it's not like necessarily our viewing area. But from Kingwood northward up here to New Caney and Splendora, I know you guys were hit very hard. Cleveland, Texas, and then back up here to all the areas anywhere near Lake Livingston. Purple indicates between 20 and 29, basically 20 to 30 inches of rain. And then that next color up, which is like that lavender color, indicates more than 30 inches of rain in the month of April. So that is pretty crazy. And then especially areas down to the south, like Matagorda and Wharton and Brazoria County, you guys had like 2 inches. So some spots in southeast Texas had 30 and some had 2. Now that's just April. Fast forwarding to May, we had a lot of the same areas get almost as much rain. So you had some of these locations up there from Huntsville eastward that already had 30 inches of rain. And then here in the month of May, you'll see this darker, it's kind of like I don't know what you call that, maroon? That's not even maroon. That's not like A&M maroon. It's like a purple, like a red purple. Anyway, so that is showing between 15 and 20 inches of rain. And then there's a little area here where you see some purple. This is north of Kingwood. This is around Porter and New Caney and actually the Woodlands. And that area had like between 10 and 20 inches of rain. So you had, between this map, which shows you the purple and white areas that are 20, 30, 35 inches of rain. And then on top of that, you have these continued rainfall totals in May. Yeah, it added up, and it was pretty remarkable. So this is a look at some of the rainfall totals. So for the month of April, remember, these are just measured at airports. It was much higher at some locations that weren't at that exact spot. But in April, Huntsville measured 11.57 inches of rain, which was the wettest on record. In Conroe, 5.22 inches of rain was the fourth wettest April on record. When you look at all the Aprils on record. And then at Hooks Airport, which is in Tomball, 4.87, let's just call it 5 inches of rain, which was the fifth wettest on record. But here's where it gets more interesting and more painful, which is that in the month of May, Huntsville had 23.32 inches of rain, obviously wettest May on record. And when you combine all that together, 35 inches of rain fell in Huntsville during the months of April and May. Now consider this, in an average year, Huntsville receives 43 inches of rain. So you got 35 in 2 months, and a lot of that fell in about 8 days. You know, like I said, late April, early May. That's when you got the majority. So we ended up with approximately half a year's worth of rain that fell in a week across parts of Montgomery County and Walker County and Polk and San Jacinto and all those spots. So, you know, it kind of, this does get lost a little bit because shortly after this, we had the derecho show that we'll be talking more about over the next week or so. But obviously the derecho show is in everybody's memory. We had 100-mile-per-hour winds downtown. And unfortunately some people died. You know, we had trees knocked down across the area. Just memorable, crazy, you know, weather event. But this, I don't want it to go unnoticed because there are a lot of you up there that are probably still picking up the pieces after this flood. And just to summarize again, worse than Harvey in many of these spots.
All right, everybody. So thanks so much for joining me here for this edition, this Festivus edition of Mondays with Mike. You know what? Sometimes the rain comes with difficult timing and we just have to deal with it. So we can air our grievances, certainly, but we're all going to have to deal with it. So so this is my recommendation is, look, we have the Fox 26 weather app. You could download it on your smartphone. We also have our Fox Local app that's available for your smart TV and your smartphone. And it's one of those where you're just going to have to check in. The timing really does look like it's going to be from around 9 or 10 p.m. On Christmas Eve night through about 3 or 4 a.m. Christmas morning. That's sort of go time as far as nasty weather coming in. And I know, look, a lot of people are going to be heading out during that time for either worship services or just to visit with friends and family, you know, whatever you've got going on. And it can be an issue, obviously, if we have heavy rain and severe weather across the area. So check in with us. Of course, we will have our news at 5, 6, 9, and 10. I will be here on Tuesday morning, all morning. So tune in for details on that. You could also get me on Facebook, Fox 26 Mike. If you look Fox 26 Mike, my name will come up. And maybe while you're there, you can post some Festivus airing of the grievances that we could just, you know, in fun, nothing mean, just in fun to sort of get it off your chest. All right, so that'll do it. I want to give a shout out to my mom and to my brother. I actually went down to Florida and visited last week, and everybody's doing great. And yeah, so that's it. That'll do it. Everybody have a wonderful Christmas. Have a happy Hanukkah. Have a happy everything else, whatever you celebrate this time of the year. Hope it's a great one, and have a safe New Year. And I'll probably see you before then, but just take care of yourself. Be safe.